To satisfy your hunger for independent horror, check out Wild Eye Releasing. The link will be in the description. Hey, what's going on, guys? Joe again from Grindhouse Grotto. Welcome back to my channel. Tonight I'm going to be reviewing an IFC Midnight release, Scream Factory release of The Midnight Man. This is a little bit different than what I've done with my other reviews. This will be the first time that I review an independent horror film, and I love independent horror films, guys. I have watched many really low budget independent horror films in my time. Of course, I love, the classic horror films from, the 80s and 90s. But there's something to be said about independent horror films and seeing, these up-and-coming directors, up-and-coming actors, get their first major role in a movie. And what I want to emphasize, guys, when you're watching an independent horror film, take it for what it is, okay? It's not a mainstream horror film. If you compare it to a mainstream horror film, you're going to be disappointed. If you look at it as an independent horror film, and that's what your expectation is going into the movie, then I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I'm always surprised when I watch independent horror films, because I always see something that I think is different than something we've seen before. And so that's kind of what draws me to independent horror films. So, when it comes to The Midnight Man, this film does not look like an independent horror film. It's probably, if you put it on the scale of independent horror films, it's right on the cusp of being a theatrical film. IFC Midnight gets like the best of the best as far as independent films go. They get the most well-polished actors to be in their independent films. This particular film, they actually were able to get Robert Englund on board and Lin Shaye from Insidious, which are two, seasoned actors. They've been in Robert Englund's been in many films. You know him as Freddy Krueger. Lin Shaye, she's done the Insidious film. So they were able to get some, a couple mainstream actors to come on board. Not every independent horror film, though, is going to get, these type of actors to star in their films. So you have to take it for what it's worth. I enjoy watching independent horror films because I love seeing something different. And I recognize that everybody's got to have a start somewhere. If you think about all the movies that have come out, all these, mainstream horror movies, these directors and actors that have starred in these movies, they all had to get their start somewhere. And a lot of them made their start in independent horror films. So that's my thoughts on, independent horror films and then the IFC Midnight releases. The IFC Midnight releases are awesome, guys. If you want to get the Blu-ray versions of these, you're going to have to order them directly from Scream Factory. You can find these and this particular release in your local Walmart. I picked this up like several months ago, and I'm just now doing a review for it. I've watched this a couple times, and I thought it was a pretty good film. This one happens to be the DVD release, and yeah, if you don't order it from their site, then you're stuck buying the DVD release at your local Walmart, Target. I think they sell them at Best Buy as well. Anyways, guys, let's jump right into reviewing this actual DVD release, and then I'm going to do a quick little synopsis of the movie. I'm not going to get too in-depth with the plot. I'm not going to reveal any spoilers because I want people to go out and discover this film for themselves for the first time. That's the excitement of watching independent horror, is seeing something different, seeing something that you haven't seen before, and that's why I enjoy it. So, The Midnight Man on DVD. Really cool cover art, guys. I dig the hell out of that. The Midnight Man just looking absolutely creepy. Kind of looks like a troll or something. Really cool. So the cover art says, from the director of Cabin Fever, starring Robert Englund in Nightmare on Elm Street, and Lin Shaye from Insidious, and Gabriel Ha. So you got a couple, mainstream actors in there. And then the title says, Evil Comes at Midnight. You can pop this, take this little sleeve off. It's got the same cover art on the front. You pop it open. It's got some slightly different cover art on the disc. And then actually these IFC Midnight releases come with reversible art, which is I find to be really cool. But yeah, an actually really good solid release from Scream Factory, this IFC Midnight release. I haven't bought too many of them, but I'm definitely going to start investing in some of these films. Some of them I've seen, you know, like on, you know, Amazon Prime. I've ordered them on there. But I definitely want to start getting into more of these films because I've really been enjoying them. Let's get into talking about the film. So, The Midnight Man. This is a very well-polished independent horror film. It does not look like an amateur horror film at all. It looks like something that you would see, you know, in a movie theater in October if you were going to see a horror film. It looks very good. It's paced really well. The acting is exceptional. It's very atmospheric. They did a really good job. So if you think of on the scale of independent horror films, you got the really, really poorly done, really poorly executed, really cheap independent horror films, really amateur. And then right at the top of that, you have films like The Midnight Man, which are just like kind of like a hair away from being mainstream horror. They're almost there, but they're low enough of a budget where they're independent. And that's where I feel like The Midnight Man is at. Okay, it's not quite mainstream, but it's just a hair below in that independent realm. So, like I said, I'm not going to get too much into the plot. What I will say is, this film is very creepy, guys. It involves some teenagers. They're basically in their grandmother's attic, and there's kind of like an urban legend of this game called the Midnight Game. And, you know, people just think it's kind of silly. They just think it's something that, you know, the grown-ups have created over time to scare the kids or whatever. So they find this game in the girl's grandmother's attic, and they open it up, and you know, they go against all the warnings that everybody's ever said about this game, and they play it. Well, this urban legend tells of this Midnight Man, this creature, this mythical creature who looks kind of like a troll. He is spawned when this game is played. And there's certain rules to the game in order, you know, for the players to survive. Well, that's pretty much the plot in a nutshell. Now, the Midnight Man is really creepy looking. There's not too many scenes in the movie where they actually show the Midnight Man, which I think is really good because in this particular type of movie, you don't want to reveal, you know, the antagonist, you know, you don't want to reveal the creature too much because then it kind of like makes it less scary when you do actually see him. So they do a really good job where you kind of see him in the shadows. You see kind of like his overall like just the details of his face and everything in the shadows, but you don't really see him too much. And then when you do see him, it's really creepy because you're like, you haven't seen him and you're kind of waiting for it. Yeah, just a really creepy film, guys. Really well done. I'm trying to think of a movie this kind of reminds me of. Atmospherically, I can't really think of a movie. It's just that's the thing about independent horror films is they always surprise me, and I'm sitting here trying to think of a movie that this, you know, reminds me of, and I really just can't think of one, guys. It's just its own unique film. The only complaint that I have about The Midnight Man is it's really dark throughout this movie. Okay, now they might have been trying to make this film dark and gloomy to make it kind of atmospheric. And, you know, I think for the most part it works. But at other points in time when you're trying to see the actors, you really can't tell who you're looking at sometimes. And it's really dark, and they're moving, the characters are moving around. And, yeah, you just don't know where the dialogue's coming from. But I think even with that, you know, flaw, I think the movie still looks really good. I think there's some scenes that could have been lightened up a little bit, even though it doesn't really need it. If you are a type of person that doesn't like jump scares, there's definitely a lot of jump scares in this movie. I don't think there's excessively much, but there's definitely jump scares in here. I think they're pretty well timed. They are pretty freaky, pretty scary. That's my thoughts on the film, guys. The Midnight Man. Now, do I recommend this film? Hell yeah, I recommend this film. This is a phenomenal film, guys. I give this film, you know, if I were to compare it amongst other independent horror films, I would give it a solid A. Against mainstream horror, I would give it a B, okay? It's not going to hold up to mainstream horror films. If you're going into it thinking that you're going to see, you know, your typical slasher or typical horror film, it's going to match up to it, it's not, okay? It looks really good, but it's a B movie at the end of the day. And that's what you're getting. This movie is a really solid movie. I would highly recommend it. You can find it at your Walmart. I think it's been out for a while, so you might have a hard time finding it. You probably can still order this on Amazon. You can order directly from Scream Factory, eBay, of course. But yeah, highly recommend seeing The Midnight Man. It's definitely an awesome movie. I would love to see a sequel to this. That'd be pretty cool. I would love to see, you know, this become a long-standing horror franchise. I think it's a pretty good movie. I've seen some reviews where people said they didn't like it. Everybody's got their preference on what they enjoy with horror films, and I feel like this is a pretty decent attempt at a horror movie, and I would like to see it continue. I think it can get better from what this movie established. Anyways, guys, that's my review of The Midnight Man. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Drop me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on this movie if you've seen it before. Give me the thumbs up if you did enjoy this movie, and please subscribe to my channel. All support is greatly appreciated, and stay tuned for future reviews, guys. Take it easy.